Good morning. Light we know kindle, inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom.
How's that? Am I on? Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. What's that? For the archives, yes. There are some who would like to put me in an archive. I think the word they used was asylum. I don't know. It could be a synonym. I'm just not sure. Okay. As we prepare for our responsive reading, we will ask you to please arise as you are willing and or able. And we're going to sing hymn number 282, Let the Whole Creation. Oh, wait a minute.
238.
Forgive me.
We could do 282.
No. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to turn to hymn number 238 and sing Within the Shining of a Star, 238.
Within the shining
of a star, we catch a glimpse of who we are.
In
every infant born we see the hope of our nativity. The miracle of each new birth can shake and save the stony earth. Triumphantly, the newborn's cry strike echoes from the waiting sky. Thank you. Please be seated. As I have often affirmed, we seek progress, not perfection. That was very, very good. We are moving forward. If you'll turn in your hymnal now to our responsive reading 621, 621. It was given to us by Margaret Gooding. And if you'll let me begin, and if you'll follow me in tandem, we shall begin. They told me that when Jesus was born, a star appeared in the heavens above the place where the young child lay. It was a wonderful miracle, part of a long ago story, foretelling an uncommon life. When I was older and believed in science and reason, I believed the story of the star explained. The star explained became the star understood for Jesus, for Buddha, and Zarathustra. Who knows what it may foretell? Thank you. We now come to that portion of our service that we call honoring our joys and sorrows. I can do that. During this holy season, where so many religious and spiritual holidays or holy days are observed, we especially take this time to remember all of the children of earth, all those who suffer, who are embroiled in war, in hunger, in natural disaster. We know that if we so choose, we can rise to the occasion and in our own small way and in a much larger collective way, mitigate all suffering. And so I light that candle in that spirit. Is there anyone who would like to share a joy or a concern? Oh, come on now.
There, I'll do a joy this morning. First off, I think it looks beautiful in here, and Teresa and Kathy and Betsy did a great job, and I think it really dressed the place up. Looks good out front too, so really nice. And I know that obviously took a lot of work. Other thing that's less known is Peter ordered us a really excellent computer to replace the one we have for Zoom, and that one will get retired to the office where it'll do good there. But I think this is really going to be a step up for us. So I've been working on setting it up, and I think in the next few weeks we'll get that going, and it'll make things better. So good news there.
Great. Anyone else? Don't all come up at once. I would like to take a minute, if I may. I know I'm double dipping, but please forgive me here. I need to share something with this congregation, those assembled and those who join us on Zoom, because it is something that is significant to me. And by virtue of that, and by virtue of my relationship to this congregation, one that is of love and great joy to always be with you, that I share it. Many of you know, and perhaps some of you don't know, that a while back, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I did the traditional modality of treatment, lots of radiation. I had more radiation than probably Chernobyl. And I didn't glow in the dark, and my heating bill didn't go down, but you can't have everything. And of course, because the cancer was kind of aggressive, I also had what they call hormonal treatment. I am probably one of the few men, other than perhaps those who we know in the transgender community, who does understand what menopause truly is, because I've been through it. Well, a while ago, a couple weeks ago, my doctor told me that because I go in every 6 months for a test, and he said, "Ron, your PSA scores are a bit elevated. I'm not terrified, but I am concerned." Long story short, had a CAT scan, met with the doctor a week later, and the doctor said, "Your prostate cancer is back." That's the bad news. He says, "I do have good news." I said, "Please, pray tell, what could that be?" He said, "Your cancer has not metastasized. It is strictly in the prostate, and therefore we can deal with this." I said, "Great." I won't bore you with what my choices and options are. The one interesting fact is that only between 5 and 10% of people with my level of dis-ease and treatment actually have this kind of a recurrence. So this Wednesday, my wife and I are going to go to Cheektowaga, as we call it, and meet with a surgeon, because this has to be dealt with surgically. And I will then get a date, of course, and a hospital and so forth. And I am assured that my wife will not be having to wear basic black in the foreseeable future, nor that my ministry in Fredonia will be the shortest ministry in the Fredonia Church's history. But I wanted to share that with you. It shouldn't slow me down much, though I must tell you there's a possibility I may be preaching my January sermon to you via Zoom in a seated position. But I ask for your good thoughts, your positive affirmations, however you interpret the word prayer. That's up to you. Your support, your love and your care has always been impressive to me. And now that I need it, probably, well, I wouldn't say this is my hour of greatest need, but it's up there, I think. This forces you to do a lot of reflecting, and as I'm sure some of you have had those kind of life experiences. So, without any further ado, I thank you for your support, and I am grateful that you've given me a few extra minutes to share, not a sorrow, but let's call it a challenge, and a challenge that we can engage in our own way together. Thank you. Now, Yes, ma'am. Please, please, please.
You reminded me, many of us who are here know Don Rydell. I sent him an e-card, Christmas card, and I got a response from him this morning. You know, he's I think he's 85 or 89 now. And he just asked me to say hello to everybody and thank me for the card. So
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Good to be remembered. We now come to that portion of our service, the offering. And as Patty plays the offertory, we would ask you to, if you can, we appreciate your generosity and recognize that it is through your generosity that it makes the ministry of this church possible.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart
All the stirrings of compassion blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Good morning once again. It is wonderful to be with you, and it's wonderful that I don't see snow. Being a traveling preacher, it's a serious consideration for me. Let me see here. Yep. Pardon me just a second here. Yeah, very good. I'm a student of history, and I'll state it very plainly. I consider myself an amateur student of history. I'm all over the place. I study a little bit of everything, religious history, political history, you name it. I find it fascinating because it always has offered me, even from the time I was a young child, an opportunity to peer not into the facts and demonstrations of the human experience and how we have evolved over the millions of years to our present height, of intellectual prowess and achievement, it's allowed us or allowed me rather, a good insight into the human condition, to look beyond the achievements, to look beyond the intellectualism and even to some extent the science of how we have gotten to where we've gotten. And I'm always willing to, I hope that, at least by my and I think other people's definitions, that the definition of what I call spiritual maturity and emotional maturity is the willingness to amend those things that I find no longer useful, and in religious or spiritual terms, no longer believable. And the title of my reflection this morning is The Shock and Awe of Christmas. And I do that because of the fact that I know that the entire Christmas story and even the personage of the little babe in the manger has obviously been a source of extraordinary inspiration, spiritual comfort, and the evolution of Western civilization. However, we must all come to the conclusion as we look at our own principles that we do not simply bow to stories and narratives and so forth, that we must look beyond those things, not only to glean a deeper meaning for ourselves, but to also analyze whether or not something is, for example, useful for our growth, physical growth, emotional growth, and of course, spiritual growth. And I deal with a lot of UU congregations. And one of the things I reflect on more often than not is the evolution, and I call it an evolution. It's been a progression of how we went from back in the 1500s, the beginning of Unitarianism, and then into the 1800s, how Universalism evolved, and to the point of 1961, where we decided that there was more uniting us than dividing us, and we're willing to say, okay, let us communally rejoin ourselves, let us corporately rejoin ourselves so that we may choose by intention to grow and to evolve. That's a tremendous thing. Most churches have what are called schisms. They break apart. Somebody doesn't believe something, another person strongly does believe something, there's a little discussion, there's a little dialogue, there's usually a fist fight, and then people go in one corner, another corner. I don't know if this is how Martin Luther began, but I suspect there were some similarities. I really do. In any event, I look to those times as we have evolved, and I remember before I left you in June for what I call our summer sabbatical or our summer hiatus, I was reflecting at that time, and it was a broad reflection on had religion outlived its usefulness. The religions, if you will, all of us, ours included, have we somehow, is this concept, has this foundation, is it beginning to crumble? And I want to reflect to you back from that, again, kind of as a backdrop to what I'm going to share with you about Christmas today. And it's a reading that I shared with you in June, but I felt it appropriate and important to share with you again, because it reflects not just on the subject of religion in general, but it will reflect also on the subject of Christmas. It is man's intelligence that makes him so often behave more stupidly than the beasts. Man is impelled to invent theories to account for what happens in the world. Unfortunately, he is not intelligent enough in most cases to find correct explanations, so that when he acts on his theories, he behaves very often like a lunatic. Thus, no animal is clever enough when there is a drought to imagine that the rain is being withheld by evil spirits or as punishment for its transgressions. Therefore, you never see animals going through the absurd and often horrible fooleries of magic and religion. No horse, for example, would kill one of its foals to make the wind change directions. Dupe do not ritually urinate in the hope of persuading heaven to do the same and send down rain. Asses do not bray a liturgy to a cloudless sky, nor do cats attempt by abstinence from cat's meat to wheedle the feline spirits into benevolence. Only man behaves with such gratuitous folly. It is the price he has to pay for being so intelligent, but not, as yet, intelligent enough. That was written by Aldous Huxley. I went out to the store the other day, and this is part A, of what I experienced. I looked at, went to do a little what I call pre-Christmas intelligence, what do they call that? Reconnaissance mission. And I remember that the reason I walked into the various boutiques and stores and experienced something in my psyche that I very seldom really experience. And to be honest, not even this past, when my doctor told me that I was ill again, I didn't experience shock. When I looked at the prices of things, groceries, $9 for a bottle of eggnog? Does it come with gold dust mixed in it? Do cherubim or seraphim or any other angelic beings serve it to you in golden goblets? $9. And then all of this other stuff, things I was thinking, well, my wife would like this. And I'm like, no, she wouldn't, because I can't afford it. And that is the shock. The other shock is, of course, we continue as human beings to, in a sense, celebrate this holiday, and I'm preaching to the choir, of course, as a celebration of materialism, in its own way, even of hedonism, of excess, like we do so many other things. We have, for all intents and purposes, in many instances, stomped out the religious or spiritual dynamic that had begun this celebration, and subsequently now you can actually speak to children who are, in quotation mark, being raised in the church, who have no idea what they're celebrating. And the question, of course, must be asked, as we in Unitarian Universalism ask many, many times. It's kind of, again, one of those elephants in the room. But as I asked last June, and about religion in general, we ask about now the Christmas phenomena. Has it outlived its usefulness? Is it, I shouldn't say outlived its usefulness, but is it really that relevant anymore? And I must tell you something, because in a way, this denomination is way, way ahead of its time in, I think, unconsciously recognizing what is becoming consciously manifest in the world today. That no matter what kind of press it's getting, no matter what kind of television, radio, computer, newspaper it's getting, that if you really want the honest to gosh truth, that which is called Christmas, or even the Christmas story and the subsequent narrative that follows, is beginning to fragment. And it's beginning to fragment, and we know this because we are all, in our own way, students of science and history. We're beginning to see that the more and more we understand about science, the more we understand about the natural world, the more we understand about all of those things, the less and less superstitious we are going to be. And what is actually dying is not Christendom per se, but theism. Theism is fundamentally, I'm giving you the Reader's Digest definition, is the belief that there is a, quote, supreme being, and as such, all of the theologies that we are most familiar with in the Western spiritual traditions, religious traditions, that this being is off somewhere, judging, keeping score, punishing, and interceding on our behalf when necessary and or appropriate. And yet when we study science, and we are rigorously, and I'll use the word even brutally honest with ourselves, we begin to understand that this belief no longer holds the sway that it did over the millennia, over the many, many years. And that's significant to acknowledge that, to understand that. Because as Aldous Huxley points out, religion, in its most basic form, is creative rationalization. The human being, having experienced what is called existential angst, the anxiousness of just being here and dealing with all of the things that impinge on the human condition, is terrified. And the other piece of it, of course, is we're terrified that when one of us or all of us physically die, that's it. And so all of the narratives, all of the theism that I just spoke of, all of that speaks to that. It is part of what are called, very politically correctly, belief systems. But those systems serve to help us cope. And whether they are actually true or not true, believe it or not, is irrelevant. Because if it brings you comfort, if it helps you feel less anxious about you and your place in the world and your interaction with the world, then that system is serving you. But this system that we celebrate yearly, or many of us choose not to because we do see that it no longer fulfills our needs, okay? Is it something that we can just drop away? I'm here to tell you, just like I told you about religion back in June, that no. My short answer, if I may, is no. It is not something we want to throw away. As any part of our growth and progression as a species, we have to recognize, at least that's my choice, that I have to recognize that those beliefs did serve me. And at one time, they served me very, very well. But, as Paul in Scripture says, there was a time I thought as a child, I spake as a child, I believed as a child, I saw through the glass darkly. But now with new insight, and with us, most of our insights are indeed science. And yet, one of the other things that I find fascinating is that because of what I've been through, and because of my interaction with other human beings who have had similar theological orientation and exposure, I still find I still find an awe, a sense of, I don't want to call it mystery, but a sense of awe. There is something almost palpable that touches my heart, touches my being when I read the stories, when I contemplate the narrative, because it's the narrative of so many people. I mean, I don't have to tell you, of course, you can take the Christmas story and you can make it modern, if you will. You can talk about immigrants, you can talk about hunger, you can talk about oppression by civil authorities. There's a lesson in all of it. But ultimately, what is the awe? The awe, as people perceive and many affirm, in a new reframing or a new orientation to the story, and again to the subsequent narrative that follows it, is that this individual, as was said in the responsive reading, this special individual, this man called, and by the way, the appropriate word and pronunciation from the Aramaic is Yeshua, not Jeshua, not Jesus, it's Yeshua. I knew you wanted to know that. That what was special about him and what is celebrated on this during this season is that he somehow found a way, not that he perceived himself to be special, unique, or different, but he found a way through his religion, by the way, which was, you could say, Orthodox Judaism, to find a way to love without condition, to find a way to, through his consciousness, unify with those who he dealt with, and to accept anyone and everyone as a co-equal in his perception of a consciousness that he called, grant you, Abba, which in Aramaic means daddy or papa, but that universal consciousness, that sense of care, he could extend not only within his own heart, but extend that to others. And I think that's the awe. I've met people like that, where you're in their presence, and because they know how to love without condition, they strive consciously to live with intention, not to judge, but to accept. And if you study, I don't care whether it's some of my traditions that I go back to, spiritualism, New Thought, all the various Christian denominations, Judaic groups, Islamic, Buddhist, and so forth, that seems to be the direction that we are evolutionarily inclined to going toward, in spite of the fact that it looks completely the opposite right now. Because technology and information, we get all kinds of information. We don't hear about the people who do small kindnesses, one person at a time, one day at a time, without thought of return, without thought of exchange, and just be kind. Shared with you before, the Dalai Lama says, kindness is my religion. That's it. No temples, no dogmas, no creeds, okay? No ceremonies, no rituals. Be kind to yourself, be kind to each other. It's not a new thing, obviously, but it seems to be marketed for the past 2,000 years through this babe as a new thing. And that's okay. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care about a spiritual messenger's paternity. I don't care about his pedigree or her pedigree. What I care about, of course, is the message. Does it make spiritual common sense? If it doesn't work for everybody, it works for nobody. And even in the Judeo-Christian scriptures, it says, if one of us is raised, we are all raised up. And yet if one of us diminishes, one We are all diminished. So that awe that I feel during this holiday season is a reaffirmation of those messages I've just shared with you that have expressed themselves through this small babe. And yet, it also encourages me. It commands me, if I may use that word, to take those messages and start practicing them in earnest. Because it was reflected in the responsive reading today and in the hymns that we sang. It was reflected that every time a child is born, that is, for lack of a better phrase, if you'll bear with me, the Christ child. The aspect of divinity that we have to acknowledge not only in that little babe in a manger, but that little babe who's in a hospital, that little babe who is in the Middle East, to acknowledge that, so that we reach a level of love, caring, and compassion where not even one child is allowed on this planet to suffer the indignities and sometimes the horrors of being a citizen of planet Earth. That's the awe. And even though it's a humbling awe and it's a joyous awe, it is still that which helps me remember that we are all responsible to each other, but especially to those that have no voice, that do not appear to have power, whether it be our children, our beloved pets. We're all interconnected. And even someone like Jesus, who some people put on such a lofty pedestal that once they put him on the pedestal, they can't take him down. Can't take him down. And which is an affirmation of, oh yeah, you're the great exception. Nope, said it himself. The things that I do, ye shall do, and greater shall ye do if you have faith. Faith in what? Faith in a theistic God that sits on a throne, judges, condemns, and seems to be, basically an absent landlord? No. It is acknowledging that there is something within you, something that is so mysterious and something that is so intellectually incomprehensible, but it is still there, and we feel it from time to time. We feel it in an act of kindness. We feel it when we love our neighbors. We feel it when we love people who we have no business loving, because intellectually and they don't deserve to be loved. That's when we feel that. I've referred to it before. Some call it, quantum physicists, by the way, call it the God particle. It's something that is beyond it is what Emerson talked about. Emerson, when he talked about transcendence, it transcends our humanity and touches something that we still don't have a clue. But that's what we're all about, and that's what we're here to do, is to get a clue. And if you never get it, that's okay. But once you do get it, it won't let you go. It won't let you go, because you will engage in random acts of kindness. You will, as Bishop John Shelby Spong says, you will love unmeasurably. I will tell you, if you're interested in gaining a deeper insight into what I've spoken of this morning, and I'm not like Oprah Winfrey. I try not to get up here and recommend the book of the month, okay? Though I appreciate her effort. She's recommended some really good stuff. But even though you might not identify with the Christianity of your upbringing, and you might have rejected it, and you might think it is now the most ridiculous, laughable belief system in the course of human history, put all of that aside and put your mind toward gaining a deeper insight and understanding. And what I would recommend you read, because it's been a really great read for me, is a book. This was the second book that he wrote. John Shelby Spong, was bishop of the Newark, New Jersey for about 30, well, maybe 25 years in the Episcopal Church, and where he got in trouble writing a wonderful book called Why Christianity Must Change or Die. Catchy, isn't it? But the book that he wrote that is really, to me, an extension of his thought is called A New Christianity for a New World. Now, the book isn't intended to reconvert you to a belief system called Christianity. It's to help us understand what's happening on this planet, that our belief structures are crumbling. They are no longer serving us well. Specifically, and most importantly, as I mentioned in the beginning, the theism. And so in his belief, he is reframing that theism in such a way that it would help us to be more calm, cool, and collected in our growth, and help others do the same. I don't know if any of us in this room today or joining us on Zoom will live long enough to see these kind of changes that need to be made. But it's my contention and my conviction that it is a good read that will give us insight, specifically the insight needed, because you'll read the book and you go, I know that, I know that, I know that. And that's because Unitarian-Universalism was way ahead of its time in coming to many of the conclusions that Bishop Spong has come to, but that you can now then approach, not necessarily just because you're going to read this, but hopefully with some of the things I've shared with you this morning, you will then be able to approach Christmas in a new spirit, in a new way. To look at the babe as not the great exception, but the great example. To perhaps appreciate some of the deeper teachings and meanings, but to appreciate that his birth is symbolic of a renewal of love, a renewal to the commitment to love, kindness, compassion, to the commitment of working for a world that works for everybody, a commitment to remember that it is not important to worry about what happens after the change called death, but to create heaven, if you will, so to speak, in right here and right now. To share that with our generation. The Native Americans have the smartest viewpoint toward this. When they make a decision, even if I speak to this, even if we were making a theological choice or decision, they contemplate the impact of it for the next 7 generations. Sometimes we make choices and decisions that aren't going to impact. We don't give any consideration if it's going to impact us in the next 7 minutes, 7 days, or 7 weeks. I believe this needs to be done. And I believe if we do it, we can be more empathetic, sympathetic to the beliefs of others, allow them to be who they are, as we always have been, as we need to be and choose to be who we are. But so in respecting all of this, we create that awe and renew that awe again and again and again. I like Sir Richard Branson. He came up with a holiday greeting. He said, of course, I have people in the Christian faith that say, you folks, you're just attacking Christmas. I go, no. There are at least 15 to 20 unique and distinct holidays in November and December from a variety of faith traditions. So when I say to you, happy holidays, I don't know what you believe. I don't care. It's your belief. So I'm wishing you the most joyous experience and expression possible. It's not an attack on your Christmas. It's a gesture of respect. I would encourage you to do so, but as I just mentioned, I like Sir Richard Branson. He's the founder of Virgin Airlines and a bunch of other stuff. He's got more money than God. Anyway, Not that I'm jealous. No, I wish him nothing but the best. Oh, he doesn't return my calls. Anyway, he came up with and you've seen it on some greeting cards, the term Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. And I'm like, and I've signed that on Christmas cards or holiday greetings. And people will call me and I will explain myself. And people will go, oh, you are nuts. But if they think about it for a minute, it's the respect of a belief, but it's also people hopefully within our body, our family, recognize the need for that respect, but also the need for us to continue to evolve and grow in our own beliefs, in our own values, and our own principles. So, on behalf of myself, and I'm still not quite used to it. I am the minister of the congregation in Fredonia, New York now. On behalf of myself and our entire congregation, we truly wish you a happy holidays and a happy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. Thank you.
Reverend, can you spell that right now?
Can I spell it?
Mm-hmm.
Do I get a hamburger and a order of fries? I mean, I'll be, well, jeez. Oh, CHRISTMA, HANUKA, no wait, HUNKU, KWANZIKA. Don't ask me to do that again.
No, you're wrong. I asked you, can you spell it right now?
It?
Mm-hmm. IT.
IT.
Gotcha. Can you spell it? I love you.
You know, I'm not having the absolute best day. And actually, to be honest, it's a very good day. But what are you asking me to do again?
Spell it.
IT.
Yeah.
Okay, that's funny. Why?
Yeah, well, it's a great kid's joke. For
It's a
many
what?
Things. It's a great kid's joke for many things.
Oh.
Well, you
Well,
know
that's
where my
I,
head's at.
I'll give you one better. You know, why is a bottle of orange juice good for your mind? Because you look at it and it continues to ask you to concentrate. Nah. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. As we proceed now, as we are, all of us, going to be recovering from the shock of Christmas, let us tune into the awe, the mystery and majesty of Christmas, and arise those who are willing and able. 245, Joy to the World.
Joy to
the world.
The word is come.
See, we heart prepare a room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, now gladness reigns. Let hearts their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, joy, joy. No more let sins and sorrows grow, nor thorns infest the ground. Let righteousness its glory show. We'll do better next time. Thank you. Please be seated. Again, one of my favorite words, reframing. It is our custom, as well as the custom of, I would say, almost every single liberal religious tradition I've ever known, to take contemporary or I don't know what you want to call them, hymns, and to reframe them to reflect the values and such of that religious tradition. Sometimes it works, other times a little more challenging. But we're doing good. We're doing great. Okay. I will be with you as that old Lord a willin' and the creed don't rise on December 31st, which is the New Year's Eve morning. And I would very much love to see as many of you as possible, though I know many people do travel. Only you can prevent forest fires, so don't drink and drive. That's what we used to call years ago, New Year's Eve, we called it amateur night. And the good news is we'll be here during the day, so we can hunker down in our homes or whatever, safe quarters, and not have to worry about the dangers of anyone over imbibing. We are going to have something that we did last year, as I am grateful to be able to do it. We're going to have a burning bowl ritual or ceremony. And let me give you again, the Reader's Digest version of that. It is symbolic. There is no magic or what I call wishcraft involved. It is simply an outer sign of an inner, hopefully, awakening. What you will do, and I will ask the church staff, if I may call them that, to distribute to you, maybe not beginning today, but maybe if you can maybe have them at home. If you have a 3x5 or even a 4x6, I don't want it to be as thick as this book is what I'm trying to say, but something, like that, or even, well, again, like the size of your insert. And what I'd like you to do is recognize anything and everything that you feel in your heart and in your mind no longer serves you. This could include wonderful things that have occurred to you in the past year, or it could, what we call joys, or it could also and should include those things that are sorrows. You cannot think a positive and a negative thought simultaneously. Mind is the builder, and mind can also be the destroyer. By taking and solidifying those things that we want to let go of, to release, we give ourselves, I call it sacred space in our mind to contemplate and affirm those things that we want to draw into our lives for our highest good and the good of all that we interact with. So again, write down all of those things that no longer you feel are necessary to your growth, those challenges, whether it be physical, emotional, and of course, spiritual. During the, I call it the zenith of that particular part of the service, we will symbolically light each one of those lists, if you will, or pieces of paper, and as flame or fire is symbolic, again, I stress symbolic, of purification, cleansing, and in this ritual, release. It'll help you, I hope, and I pray, truly release this from your consciousness so that you can open yourselves to greater good in the coming year. But that will be, again, on the morning of the 31st. Does anyone else have any announcements they'd like to make?
I have a few.
Yes.
We're doing our Topps card. We're only doing a Topps card once a year. If anybody wants to put in their orders for Topps cards, I've had one person who put in Topps cards because they know she's going to buy some throughout the year. So she ordered a few. So if you think you might want to buy some throughout the year, let me know and order them. The church makes 5% from all the Topps cards. Also, we're collecting yarn because Nigel will be making scarves and hats, and we'll be giving away to, I'm not for sure if we decided which organization we're donating them to. And this Saturday, December 9th, we're having the board meeting. Felt like we just had a board meeting, but that's what all my notes. Saturday morning at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements that anyone would like to make? Yes, ma'am.
I meant to say December 9th at 10 a.m.
Okay, December
10 a.m.
9th at 10 a.m. Yeah, December 9th at 10 a.m. Okay, I'm okay. All right. Okay. As we prepare to extinguish our chalice, we ask that you take a moment as I share with you these closing affirmations, this closing benediction. This is a holy season, and it is holy because we have declared it to be so. For what we declare to be holy and sacred truly can and often does become just that. Something life-affirming, life-giving, something that helps us to recognize our unity, to help us support each other in our vulnerability, and to give us the added strength we need for that purpose. We gather together during this holy season to remember and to appreciate the symbolic rebirth of unconditional love, the symbolic rebirth of that love within the human sphere. And as we celebrate that love and celebrate that birth, we take time to reflect again upon all those in the world who need love, who need acceptance, who need peace, who need food, clothing, shelter. And we recommit ourselves to that inspiration so that in our small way and in our larger way of those that we influence, we go forth out, not only celebrating a season of materialism and excess, but to recommit ourselves to a season of mutuality, of compassion, and growth. This is our prayer. Not that we believe this prayer changes the consciousness of the universe, but by making these affirmations, this prayer truly changes us. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Again, you'll find, as you know, many of you, the chalice extinguishing words that are in your order of service. And if you'll please repeat after me, we extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Children, sleep softly falling. Dreams are calling like bells in the distance. We are dreamers not so long ago, but one by one we all had to grow up. When it seems the magic slipped away, we find it all again on Christmas Day. Believe in what your heart is saying. Hear the melody that's playing. There's no time to waste. There's so much to celebrate. Believe in what you feel inside. Give your dreams the wings to fly. You have everything you need if you just believe.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Look at the angel. Look at the angel.